all of a sudden a period of time goes by, a week, 2 weeks, and you don't hear anything from him. So here's my perspective. My name is Scott Harris. Our company is NAPAICC Inc. It's North American Public Adjusters Insurance Claims Consultants. I was a carrier adjuster prior to being a public adjuster. I worked as a desk adjuster, complex claims, field. I know the differences between the reserves they set as a desk adjuster versus a field adjuster versus complex claims. Prior to that, I was a general contractor. I held a GC license for 25 plus years, and I worked 10 of those as a preferred vendor directly for and with the insurance companies. So my perspective is going to be a little bit different in this room than a lot of public adjusters because I'm rooted so far inside the carrier. Now, with that being said, I see the problems, guys. I see the problems out there, right? And they are making everything more and more and more difficult for us. The hardest thing, that's it right there, right? Getting paid. That is the hardest thing. You submit your billing, you submit your direction of payment, you submit your exactament estimate, you think that it's a fair exactament estimate for what you've done for that particular claim, and all of a sudden you don't hear anything out of the insurance companies, you're not getting paid. And what people don't realize in this industry is that the carriers created you guys. I don't know if you know that or not, but all the preferred vendor networks, mitigation, IICRC, guidelines, exactament, this all stems from the carrier to begin with in a way to control the cost of the claim. Specifically, they opened up an entire industry. They allowed the IICRC to educate everybody in the standards. And then when that industry started giving them back the information they created and they didn't agree with the pricing, they start putting up barriers and roadblocks for you guys, right? So all my mitigation people that I work with, they're all saying the same exact thing. Justice disappearing. They're not calling us back, and we can't negotiate anymore. On the roofing side, you might get up on the roof with the adjuster. He doesn't want confrontation. He doesn't want to argue with you. He's not going to tell you what he knows or doesn't know. You're wondering what he does know most of the time as a roofer because you know the roof. You do this every single day. You strip down the shingles, you know the underlayment, you know the flashing system, whether it's step flashing, whether it's drip edge, you know that it's half inch sheathing, butt jointed or clipped, you know whether it's 5/8, you know, tongue and groove in there, you know what's need to be replaced by walking on the roof when you hit that soft spot, you know there's water damage. You photograph the underneath side of it, you show them everything, and you write up a great estimate showing the damages to, and they look at it and go, wait a minute. That's a lot of money. We're not paying that. We're not going to get you paid. And the friction and tension starts, right? And generally speaking, it's because they don't understand the product that you're putting out. The other problem is that it doesn't match the policy. Okay? So as contractors, as a general contractor, I had to stay in my lane. When I wasn't a public adjuster and when I wasn't an insurance adjuster and I got on roofs with the carrier adjusters, I had to stay in my lane. And I had to focus on what my job was, and my job was to replace the roof and explain why, right? I can't do this one slope because Florida code says that when you go over 25, 30% of the roof, you got to do the whole thing. You got to re-nail it, and you got to do everything because they want it to be hurricane compliant with the most recent codes. But an adjuster looks at that and goes, yeah, well, that sounds like law and ordinance to me, and that's cost incurred, so I'm not going to include that in my estimate. He doesn't tell you that, but I'm not going to include that in my estimate. And he does that as he applies coverages, and his estimate ends up to be $10,000, $13,000 minus the deductible, right? For a $35,000 reasonable roof at 42 squares, asphalt shingle, maybe it's $550 a square that you're asking for. Okay, not out of the realm, $600 a square, even $750 a square for an asphalt shingle roof can be within the realm. And what they're not taking into consideration is that you're putting all the money on the mitigation side, the equipment, the labor, and everything up front, and then you gotta wait to get paid, and the roofers are getting frustrated because they gotta wait for a coverage determination, and then the homeowner comes back to them and says, yeah, they gave me $13,000 and you want $38,000. So the roofers go, all right, well, I guess there's nothing I can do here, and I'm going to move on because I have other estimates that I'm writing, and I have other prospects that I'm going to get my crews on because my job as a roofing contractor or any contractor is to keep your crews going, right? and you start to put these things on the back burner, and you start losing trust in the industry. Who in this room is not losing trust in the industry? Raise your hand if you're not. Yeah, raise your hand if you are, right? We're all losing trust in the industry because they keep putting more restrictions on policies. They keep kneecapping us harder and harder. For mitigation contractors, you go out there and you set up stabilization equipment, and then you go out there and you bill them for that stabilization on the EMS side of it, okay, for the $3,000 that they have reserved. And then you submit the rest of your bill, and once you get through it, whether there's remediation, mold involved, whether you have to bring assessors in to, do protocols and things like that, you bill them for the rest of it. And then what do? They peer review it, cut it in half like it's a negotiation, like a split the baby type of thing, right? They just cut it in half. They pay a peer review company $700-800. That guy comes back and says, yeah, it's about half that. What do? Do you go after the homeowners because you're not getting paid? And that's a very bad position to be in because you fronted all the money for the labor. Your guys got paid that week. You're waiting 6 months to even get paid, and they won't even call you to negotiate with your estimate anymore. I was talking to Stephen Bush from, he's from Merlin Law, and everybody knows him. He's pretty popular. I'm sorry, Stephen Bush from Merlin Law. I was talking to him. He said, I believe a PA should be on every single claim, right from the beginning. And up until that conversation, I was under the impression that we should give the carriers their own 60 days to step in shit, right? Let them step in it. Let them slip. That way we can prove it. There you go, right there, right? But now it's becoming so difficult because they're excluding everything under wear and tear. They're putting your water bit under 10,000, right, limitations. And you can't even look in the policy. And if you look at the settlement letter and it quotes some kind of 10,000 limitation, you're going to accept it. And here's what I'm finding. I'm finding that you shouldn't accept it because it's a misapplication of policy half the time. Literally half the time. Sometimes that policy may say it was under special provisions, 10,000 was removed, and the new language is 2550, 2 occurrences per year, up to $25,000 per occurrence, right? But you're a water mitigation contractor, and you don't know that because there's nobody there advocating for you either, right? So this is where he's talking about power teams. I'm firmly on board with that. PK Law has been essential to our power team. Richie has been essential to our power team. A lot of contractors in this room, outside this room, may be essential to our power team. We want to be your power team too, because at the end of the day, I could go through a whole slideshow on this, and I only got 20 minutes, so I'm going to cut it short. But number one problem we're seeing is getting paid because they keep putting more reasons not to pay on the insured shoulders. And then the insured communicates that back to you. Public adjusters out here, I'm telling you that if you've never been inside the carrier and you've never done it the carrier way, I want you to start researching it a little bit, okay? Richie mentioned weather reports. That is an excellent weather report. The last one you put up, what was it, Richie?
Weather guidance.
Weather guidance. Excellent weather report. And the reason why I like it so much is because as a carrier adjuster, what we used to use? Benchmark weather with exact analysis, right? And benchmark weather almost does the same thing. It does a zip code, address based, and you can go back a full year. But what they're doing and what I'm seeing on the public adjuster side that creates a lot of friction is we're not on our side as public adjusters creating a coverage determination for them. Is that our job? Who thinks that's our job to write a coverage determination for the carrier? You don't think it's our job?
We adjust it.
How do we adjust it?
We gather all of our facts and prove that it needs to be covered and why and how much.
And you do that through the estimate process or just through conversation or?
Oh no, through the estimate, through weather guidance, I gather all my facts and my photo sheets and everything.
Try this. When you get a first notice of loss and you get your contract signed, that's your first notice of loss as a PA, right? Mm-hmm. So a contract signature is the same to us as if a claim was called into the carrier, okay? We can treat it the same way. We get the initial facts. Hey, I had a lightning strike, a tree fell on my roof, that type of thing there. And I don't want to go through this process alone. I don't know enough about it. I need a professional like you to come in. So you come in, get a copy of their policy, slow the process down just a little bit, get the full copy from the carrier, and put together your opinion on, a written opinion on facts of the loss and where the coverages specifically in the policy apply to that, and a narrative before you even get to the estimate. Coverage A, tree branch falls on the roof, that's under coverage A, right? Sewer and water damage also could be under coverage A, but if it got into the closet with the shoes, now we got coverage C. Okay, so explain it to the carrier using their own policy language against them, because that's the job I had as a carrier adjuster. The first thing I had to do is take a look at the policy to try to figure out if there's coverage or not. And I'm telling you, last year, the Weiss report said 50% of all claims in Florida were unpaid. I'm not saying they were denied, but they were unpaid. I'm guessing another 25 were underpaid, and maybe 25 out of the 100% of claims that were filed in Florida were paid properly or with some satisfaction, right? So what you're doing when you're doing that is, as the public adjusters, what you're doing is you're pushing the carrier to defend your position. No, you're wrong because this exclusion in here overwrites that, and now we have a new situation here, right? I got into the situation real quick. I can go on and on about stuff like this, but I had a constant repeated seepage. You guys know that term, right? Constant repeated seepage for more than 14 days, we will not pay the claim, right? The constant repeated seepage could be humidity, vapor, moisture. I mean, it goes on and on. It's crazy, right? And then sometimes it says starting from the first day, we will not pay the claim. They're doing not a time base as far as the 14 days starting from the first day with a reversion. They're starting to do just constant and repeated. We think it was a constant seepage, therefore it's excluded, right? So if you write a coverage determination that's contrary to that, and they don't think it's right, they got to call you up or email you back and tell you why in the policy that it's wrong. You tainted the pool because you gave them an educated coverage determination that they have to think about before they even came up with their own, because insurance adjusters take 90 days, 60 by law, but we take 90 days to come up with any kind of decision, right? So come up with that coverage decision, present it to them, and if they ignore it, fine, but you've written your estimate, you've allocated all your buckets to it, you've put your policy limits in Exactimate, and everything is nice, neat, organized, and tight. And if they ignore it, that's bad faith, and you set it up for PK law, right? You set up early bad faith, really good early CRNs for someone like PK law to come in and take care of, right? So that's what I want to tell the public adjusters. With the roofers, man, you guys are in a tough position, because last time I did roofs for insurance carriers was in 2013 up in the Northeast. We had the ice dams and the snow dams. We had 200,000 roofs. We were doing roofs like crazy. And it used to be the day where we could get up on a roof, talk about a roof, and the adjuster would go in his car and literally write a check and give it to the homeowner, and you're ready to go. Now it's nothing but wear and tear, direct physical loss versus pre-existing damage, and everything else. And you guys can't necessarily go in and say, your adjuster's a prick, hire a PA, right? Because they're going after that now. It's called unlicensed practice of public adjustment. They're trying to get roofers and contractors to put themselves in an advocacy position where they can deposition you down the road and get you for unlicensed public adjustment. That's the way to calm down the industry, right? They're going to come, and that would be a scary thing as a contractor, by the way, right? I get a phone call from SIU and an insurance company, and they say, Scott, your company is under our investigation because you have been practicing public adjustment without a license, right? And I go, wait, I'm a contractor. I do roofs. I repair houses. I do windows. I do kitchens. I do flooring. I do everything other than that. But what I didn't realize was, through the emotion of seeing the process and how my homeowner, who I want to work with, is getting screwed, I got emotionally involved and said, hey, let me help you file this claim, pull out your declarations page, let's call it in together. It's not that scary after all, and I want to hold your hand through the process. I'm telling you, back off. You can recommend calling the claim and call your public adjuster up introduce them as a consultant, an insurance claim consultant. Yes, we have to be licensed PAs to be insurance claim consultants, but I'll tell you, my company will take any phone call at any time in front of the insured if you have any questions whatsoever. And we will listen to the facts of loss. We will listen to the carrier. We know the carriers, we know the policies, and we will give some kind of direction without even getting a contract signed and without expectation of a payment, right? If you want us to come in and consult without a contract, we can do that as well. But if the claim is complex and you need us to, take the horns by the bull by the horns and really run this thing, then we want a contract signed, a letter of representation, and we go to our power network, Richie and KP, and I may put them on notice right in the very beginning, early in the claim. Hey, I got this claim. It's got 1,000 red flags on it. I know it's going to you. I'm going to work it for 60 days and see what happens and give them the benefit of the doubt, right? But don't give up on your public adjusters. Work with good public adjusters. Get them involved early because they work with good attorney firms as well. You don't always need to call up your lawyer on day one, right? Because what do lawyers need from this claim? They need an adjustment too. I mean, most law firms are going to need an adjustment of some sort. They're going to need an estimate. They're going to need photos. They're going to need some kind of damages. And if you can throw in a really good competent adjustment using insurance policy language in that, they're going to love you for it, right? Because it really narrows down the argument. And then don't worry about my 10%. I'm honestly going to tell you that, or my 20%, depending on if it's emergency or non-emergency claim. Don't worry about that at all. There are many situations with insureds that I recognize that they don't have the money to pay the claim. It's coming out of the proceeds. Proceeds aren't, they're barely going to get them there. We'll reduce our fees as necessary. You know what I mean? We'll always do that. We'll always, because we're advocates for the insurance, for the insurance, not the insurance company. We want to help them out. So here's your power team right here, guys. And don't lose faith because getting paid is the number one thing. And what we got to do is work together in order to get you guys paid. You bring me in 60 days after you've already had tension and friction, and I got to readjust the claim, and I got to look in and see all the mistakes that were made through conversations, and I got to undo all the writings through email communications that weren't really well versed when they, homeowners say things all the time, right? I don't remember, I could have, and we got to undo this tanglement because they don't know what the hell's going on. We do. And roofers might do that too, and we might cross over our lanes. So don't wait to get people involved this year and next year because the carriers are coming after all of us, man, and that's all I can tell you. So if we work together cleanly in our own lanes and we work together to help each other, and my interest is to get you that roof job, my interest is to get you paid on your mitigation. And also mitigation contracts is the last thing I'm going to say, and I promise, and I'm sorry for running over time, Richie. Last thing I'm going to say, when I'm an adjuster and I assign a mitigation vendor, I'm getting a 24-hour report from them. I want you guys to do the same thing. That's your EMS, that's the $3,000, that's your stabilization, okay? Do the same thing on the mitigation side. Call it stabilization, call it emergency service and stabilization. Your fans, your DUs, your air scrubbers are set up. You got a $3,000 bill, and then move on to the remediation, restoration, mitigation, and everything else. Because what you're doing for that insurance company is you're giving them a report. It's a 24-hour report. You're giving them measurements, right? You're giving them photographs. You're giving them where the loss occurred, what kind of loss it is. And adjusters have reserves. Desk adjusters generally $5,000 to $10,000. Field adjusters generally $10,000 to $20,000. Complex claims up to $100,000, but you don't want to get to complex. So you can utilize the adjuster's reserve that he doesn't have to ask a manager for right in the very beginning by simply providing a 24-hour report with the billing on the EMS side of life and get on their good side right in the beginning because you're giving them an understanding of the claim. You're letting them know, shit, this is a complicated claim, and I better ask my manager to put $50,000 in my reserve, not the $5,000 that I have because that's what they gave me. So with that being said, thank you very, very much. We're going to bring it up for KP Law, and I'm sorry for taking too long, but we're here as a resource I'm more than happy to help anybody here. We don't need to sign contracts. You know, and at the end of the day, I think that if we work together collaboratively, we're going to get what needs to be done for the insured, and that result will get what you need done, what you need done, and what we need done. So, with that being said, thank you very much. I don't know how to turn this off. So. Yeah. All right, sorry about that, Rich. I know I went a long time.
I might have even KP's old, just for Matt's information. Let me see if I can find it.
Okay, Matt was supposed to be here, but the plane had a mechanical error, so he is unable to attend. But I want, obviously, to thank everybody. KMP is a property damage law firm. I think what makes us different, anybody would say this, is nobody has me. But I don't, how many of you work with a PA or actually an attorney or a firm? Because there's some PAs in here. So what's your biggest problem? I know we've already talked about this. What's your biggest headache with what?
Updates, getting updates.
Communication?
Yeah.
Anybody else? You
Oh,
guys all get communicated with?
Oh, the attorneys?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to fight. They're lazy.
No, that's fine. It's getting the-
They just want to close the claim, get paid.
Okay.
We're talking about attorneys and PAs now.
How about payments?
Once
Like,
it
how
comes
about
to
the
an
insurance
attorney,
company
what's
not
the
putting the
biggest
PA on the check? Is that happening?
Citizens is
Yes.
not the only one that's out there.
Yes, that's happening too.
What are you guys doing with that?
Yeah, what are
Homeowners
you doing
choice
with that?
also is-
Yeah, you know what? They
Homeowners
just said that to
choice,
me
And
a couple months
HCI?
ago.
Yep.
And we fired the lawyer because she didn't fight for it.
And the lady reported me to the DFS. I was missing a line on my contract and she took that as a, you know, in that situation, she didn't want to pay me my commission.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I was missing a line on my contract as a PA. And because of that, you know, it was, so, yeah.
Hmm.
When your name is not there,
It's a problem. Yeah. So communication was the biggest thing. So I work very differently. So I handle all of my own personal intakes when the referrals come in. So every homeowner has my cell phone number. Every rep, everybody in the file has my personal cell phone. I have sat on a Wednesday night at 8:30 talking to little old ladies to walk them through a DocuSign. Like it's different. At the end of the day, my house is my biggest value. So I want to make sure it's taken care of. So I'm going to provide that every step of the way. I work the claim from start to finish. We talked about it. I go all the way to making sure they have their check and asking for a Google review for everybody. Whether they do it, that's up to them, but I'm still going to ask because that's how we all continue to get business. Go
how
ahead.
long have you been working for Canada and Petroleum?
2 years. I worked with their sister firm before for 2 years. So I came out of healthcare and branched out to a totally different industry. But it's been fun. I love it. We flip houses in Jacksonville, so I work with trades all the time. I try to get them on our jobs. So I stuck with it. But yeah, healthcare was changing, and it's just another insurance industry that's changing too. So, but we do the CRNs also as courtesy. I know Brian and I talked about that. That's one big thing. I work with a public adjusting firm in Jacksonville and I've kind of developed a process that makes it a lot faster and smoother for my attorneys to get them out. So if anybody wants to sit down and talk about that, I'm happy to. And then really that's it.
Yeah, one thing that I know Matt has said, I'm going to bring in my
You
inner
have to bring Matt
here. Yes, okay. Okay, so Matt is an attorney at Cantor-Pintaluga. I am not an attorney. Let me just start off with saying that so I don't get roasted on some sort of social media, which I'm sure I will. But Matt loves to say this: if they don't put your name on the check and they're supposed to, send them to Cantor-Pintaluga, send them to Matt, and he will send out or he'll file a CRN on them. And he will make sure that you guys get paid. And he does this service for pretty much nothing. It all depends, right? But on your easy ones, he says he'll do it for free and hopes that he'll get one from you later on. If it's a little more complex, you still have to sign up the homeowner to get you paid. But let's say that the check comes, doesn't have your name on it, has a bunch of other garbage on it. He will then send it back to them and say, no, you need to split the check correctly, or send it to their trust account, and then they will send the settlement statement out and get everybody paid. So that's his thing that he says that he offers that most other attorneys don't do.
That's true.
Yeah.
And
That
so
was, I'm going to say, When I first met KMP, that was the hook right there. Matthew was giving a conversation and he was saying, look, I know civil remedy notices are a friction point for public adjusters. We're here to help you. And when he said, we won't even sign your client, I said, get the fuck out of here, right? And yeah. And I did. I
Do it
I
all
said,
the
Jake,
time.
give him a couple CRNs. Let's test it out. And I'm telling you right now, they are a power team. They are a great resource. They did file their CRNs for me. A couple of those claims did end up in their hand, but they waited the process out, and they're a fantastic resource. So the CRN thing, I think, is an awesome, awesome thing. And nobody else that I can tell is doing that. Like, who else
No,
is doing
so
that?
again, I work very differently. I try to sit down with every company's different. Every rep's different. Everybody works differently. So I run several Excel spreadsheets. I sit down, I build a process, I figure out what you want, and I follow that every month. I know updates come out. We talked about it. Salesforce. I work in Salesforce. We provide a generic report. I don't go off of that. I literally J&M knows. I go in every month and update every single file on where it's at. And if it's not moved, I want to know why. And I'm not the attorney, so the attorneys are getting little old me coming at them in a hot mess, because at the end of the day, these are our referrals. These are the homeowners that need help, and that's the goal. I don't care about.
So I just have two things to ask.
Yeah.
Do you guys have limit for the amount of money for the claim?
Mm-mm.
Because most of them,
Some of them do 75,000, 50,000, depending on what it is. But no, I mean, we'll sit down and talk about it. I mean, I want it to be the best thing for the homeowner. Like I'm not going to sway a homeowner to move forward with a claim. I know that's probably bad to say, but it's a process. And if you're not in it for the long haul, we're not overnight satisfaction. So we all have to be upfront with that. So there's not a limit, but it's got to be worth it for the homeowner.
How is the communication after the claim start? Like, you can communicate again with the contractor or the PA?
So I'll communicate with the contractor, or I communicate with the reps. The attorney communicates with the homeowner. The homeowner is always welcome to call me, but the attorney should be the one communicating with the homeowner, and I will communicate with you all. Once we get a number, that's when you'll hear from the attorney. You guys will start talking numbers and figuring out that part. But as far as
what's happening, like the contractor has a claim or a situation in the house, then he call the adjuster, then you go at the end to the attorney.
Correct.
The attorney will sign the contract with the homeowner. Then the attorney, they don't want to communicate with the contractor. They say, it's my customer because I have to tell the homeowner, yeah, but he was not your customer in the beginning. I started the claim. I need to know. I'm the one doing the job.
Correct.
So
at the end of the day, everybody needs to be communicated with. So we talked about this again. I just went through this whole process that I do with him, with River City in Jacksonville. So I provide the Excel spreadsheet. They have an Excel spreadsheet with their contractor. So literally everything that I transfers over. So everybody is on the same page. So if the homeowner calls you, you're like, 2 weeks ago, my PA sent me an update, so I know she got it from Cassie or whoever. So that's where we're following the process. But I don't want things to sit. If it's not moving in 30 days, then I want to know why. Besides discovery phase, because that's a longer process. But
thank you.
Awesome. Well, very good, guys. Thank you so much. And then we still have the room for a little bit longer. So if you want to stay and chat, if you have some questions for the attorney, questions for the public adjuster, want to hang out here and build the power team, feel free to use the room. And there's still more food left. So just saying, still more food.